2-on-2. Ready, break.
Hello and welcome back to Two in the Huddle. My name, as always, is David, and this is my very good friend Shadi. Shadi,
Hello.
how you getting on? We were together this weekend, but how did your weekend go? Tell the people.
Thanks to you and your lovely wife. Very good. Very good. Thanks for inviting to the birthday. And yeah, it was fun. Good hotel, nice pool, nice swimming pool, good vibes, good dinners. Enjoyed it a lot. Wish it wouldn't have ended so quick. And
yeah, it felt
very
abrupt.
good.
And I had my favorite beer in a bottle as well. Shout out to Alhambra.
Yeah,
we went away this weekend for my wife's birthday. We usually like rent a house and things like this, but this year she decided to do a hotel, which was actually really nice, to be fair, and meant that we didn't have to clean up after ourselves. So massive win on that front. But yeah, looking forward to getting back as we continue our roll into the season. We are, I think, about 3 weeks away. September 10th on Thursday is the kickoff of the NFL season. So we have a few of our divisions left to break down and predict. Today, we are touching the AFC South. Last week, if you recall and are following us, we talked about the AFC East, where Shadi mentioned that the Bills may not make the playoffs and broke the internet a little bit. So if you've not seen those...
I found another influencer who said the same thing, so I'm not the only one.
Yeah,
and I'm calling myself an influencer now. If I have hate, I'm calling myself influencer.
We've made it. If people are trolling us online with profiles with no profile pic, we've made it. I love when bots talk shit about me. But today is a little probably less contentious of a division, the AFC South, which has a chance to be one of the worst divisions in football, but it could also be one of the best, depending on how some of these teams shake out. So I think it's a really interesting one to talk about today. As always, subscribe, like, share, follow, all those good stuff. Again, we are 3 weeks away from the season kicking off, which is very, very exciting. So, Shadi, before we kick in, I do have one question for you, and I'm sure you've got a question for me. Deshaun Watson. Are you going to... Dan Orlovsky said on First Take that Browns fans shouldn't go to games. That's how bold he was about this scenario. I said to you right at the beginning of the summer that Deshaun Watson was going to be the starting quarterback for the Cleveland Browns week 1. I was in no doubt that was going to happen. How do you feel about it as a recently devout Browns fan?
Yeah. I just wanted to say, it's like you're asking me as if I'm this guy from Cleveland, from Ohio and a lifelong Browns fan or anything like that. Like, look, I'm in it because I needed a team, and I actually liked the team, but I liked the roster that it was.
Yeah.
And the roster that they have. And even with me being that distanced, that decision still hurts and makes me really mad. So I cannot imagine, and I feel for everyone that is actually a lifelong Browns supporter that's from the area, that's like pouring all their heart into that team. Yeah. Man, that must suck. And I agree, they shouldn't go to games. They shouldn't pay their money into that organization in that moment.
Wow.
It's crazy, man. Like I'm following a couple of Cleveland Browns podcasts, influencers, things like this, and literally everyone was saying you can't start this dude. Experts were saying you can't start this guy. It didn't even seem as if he wanted to start, to be honest, with the way he performed. And the Browns just went like, yeah, that's the guy that we need.
That's the man. That's the man. He was talking about getting booed.
It also doesn't say good. I'm a bit worried about what it says about Shador Sanders also. Because like if you can't take the position from this guy, it means that you're really not that good, probably, unfortunately.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting. He was talking about getting more love on the road than he does at home. Which, I mean, it might just be apathy at this point that no one cares about you when you're on the road anyway. So we'll see. But it is a contentious situation.
And it's such a shame as well. I mean, they're building a new stadium. They have a good young roster on paper. They've done some exciting things in the last 2 drafts. Todd Monken seems like quite a positive head coach. I don't know if he's any good, but the things he says are good. Yeah, but then you have that quarterback situation and you're just like, man.
Yeah, it's a bit messy. Yeah. So yeah, Browns fans, let us know in the comments what you feel about this scenario. What's his name? DW4 is going to be your starter come hell or high water, it looks like, this season. Watch him ball out and have like 60 touchdowns and 5,000 yards and he still get booed. This is the alternate universe that could happen. And that could happen. Be mega.
I mean, Todd Monken said, you know what you should do if you get booed? Play better.
Yeah.
I don't know if at this point, but I don't know if at this point that will cut it. You know what I mean? I think the bridges are that burned that even if you play better, I'm not sure. But yeah, lots of things happening at the moment in general. Like I'm seeing also in fantasy, people are scrambling. Like you can see the last minute additions coming in. People are panicking a bit. And you see the same in the NFL. More players are getting injured.
Yeah, a lot of injuries, I feel like. Or maybe I'm just more aware of it this year, being on certain social channels. Like our Two in the Huddle page sees a lot of the algorithm we're seeing as a lot of like insider sports people or guys on the ground doing local podcasts. So maybe we're just more aware of it, but it feels like a lot more injuries this summer.
I agree. One injury in particular that we're going to talk about today as well with Jaden Higgins and how they replaced him. So we're going to dive into that. Ashton Genty got injured and is going to miss, we don't know yet how many games.
Yeah.
I think Jeremiah Love, the other rookie running back, is injured and misses like a stretch as well.
Yeah.
And it was interesting when I saw the first Jeremiah Love highlights coming out, people were commenting on social media, especially on Twitter. They were like, this guy runs like AP, man, this is AP reborn. And I was like, who's AP? And then it turns out it's Adrian Peterson. I think I need some context from you here, Dave. What does it mean if he runs like Adrian Peterson?
It's probably down to like the gallop. Like Adrian Peterson ran like his body was moving too fast for his legs to keep up. And he had this very distinct like running style that literally reminds me of like a horse. Also, Adrian Peterson was an absolute dog. Like, I think he has the single game rushing record in the NFL. I think he had like 290 odd yards one year. I think it was against the Lions, if I'm mistaken. Played on some interesting Vikings teams when the Vikings weren't all that good. But Adrian Peterson, all day, they called him as well. He was an absolute dog. So if you've not seen any highlights of AP, maybe we can do that as an offline education. Maybe even do like a history lesson that we were doing.
You know that I started following the Browns because of Nick Chubb, so I absolutely love running backs. So I would love to see it. Yeah. And by the way, other news: Nick Chubb retired. That was hurt me a bit as well. Lots to talk about.
Tears were shed, but lots of storylines going into the NFL season, which makes our job here a little bit easier, and the content is flowing. So again, make sure you're subscribed on TikTok and Instagram and all those other places where you can get information, and we'll post stuff as it comes in that we think is worth following and we think is interesting for the audience. So let's get into it, Shads. We are into, like I said, the AFC South for today. So we've got the Indianapolis Colts, Houston Texans, Tennessee Titans, and the Jacksonville Jaguars. I believe I went first last week, so I'm going to let you kick off. Where are we starting today?
I know I started with the Jets last week, but it's okay. Let me start also this week. Let me go. That's fine. I would like to start with the Houston Texans because they are the odds favorite to win this AFC South. So probably a good way to start with some positivity, but let's see. Just for context again, I like to start these off with a bit of a summary. Last season, they went 12-5, third straight playoff appearance, which apparently is also a first for this franchise. Never happened before. Ever since CJ Stroud joined as a rookie, they basically made the playoffs, if I'm not completely wrong. So positive signs. The weird part is that they started not that well. They started 0-3 and then turned it around. They won their last 9 regular season games, which is crazy. A lot of them were also 1-point games. So a lot of, what we said about the Bears, what we said about I don't remember about who we said that, but a lot of 1-point games.
Yeah, Broncos,
yes. And they won their first ever road playoff game, 30-6 against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Until then, they lost to the New England Patriots in that, how do you like to call it, the shit show of a game, where CJ Stroud threw 4 interceptions and only completed like 40% of his passes or something stupid like this. So yeah, a bit of a mixed bag that last season. Successful, but also there were mixed messages in there. So that's the frame for entering 2026. They kept their coaching staff together. D'Amico Ryans is still there. I think the only black head coach, if I'm not wrong, in the NFL at the moment.
Yeah.
Might be.
Yeah.
So the headline really is where do they move from here? Are they getting better? Are they worse? Are they a serious Super Bowl contender, maybe even? They're coming out of a season with one of the best defenses, top 3 defenses together with the Broncos and Seahawks. And they spent this offseason making the offense more heavy and more physical because their run game was a bit last season.
So by the way, just before you continue, we forgot about Aaron Glenn and Todd Bowles. There's 3 black coaches in the NFL. I think
Aaron Glenn is already out of my brain. True, but Todd Bowles, by the way, also on a hot seat for the Bucks.
Yes, yeah. So there could be 0 black coaches by the end of the year.
Let's
we'll
see.
claim Robert Saleh as a person of color if we need to.
Well, Mike McDaniel is apparently a person of color. Let's see if he's becoming.
Maybe an attitude, but
according to the interviews, he's a person of color. But yeah.
Oh, class. That's a conversation really. For another day.
Yeah. So yeah, they spent the offseason getting more physical and heavier. So let's go into that now. Let's go into the roster movements. What did they lose? What did they add? Because there's quite a few things that happened, and there's a trend in there as well that shows us what they might want to do in the next season. So another offseason where they restructured their O-line. They've done the same thing last offseason. Restructured the O-line, mixed and matched. Didn't really work. Pass protection, run protection wasn't good. So they did the same thing again. Drafted Keelan Rutledge in the first round. Traded up for him even. He's a guard or center. They got Febechi Nwau in 4th round, also on guard. Wyatt Teller from the Cleveland Browns, who is also an O-liner. And Braden Smith from the Indianapolis Colts, who they also got in a trade and who is an O-liner as well, if I'm not wrong. Yes, exactly, a tackle. So again, they've changed their O-line quite a bit, also lost people on the O-line, of course. So that is one of the storylines that you need to watch this season. Is the O-line fixed? Does the O-line do their job better? Blockbuster trade might have been David Montgomery, who they got from the Lions. So they've got a new running back after their running game was not that good last season. So he immediately becomes their starting running back. And then they got stronger on tight end as well, because they drafted Marlon Klein and they traded for Foster Moreau. So as you can, basically what all of these things have in common is they got a bit more run focused. They got heavier, especially on O-line and on tight end. So it seems like the trend here is that they want to improve their run blocking, that they want to run the ball more, all these kind of things. And then yesterday, ruining my whole research that I've done for the whole week, they've signed the Jaden Higgins replacement. They got Keshawn Booty in on wide receiver. So we're going to talk about his role as well when we look at the offensive identity. But yeah, I think that summarizes quite well what they're trying to achieve this offseason. So then let's look at the offense after we've covered the moves. I think it's a bit lazy. I went into this thinking, let's just talk about can CJ Stroud make the next step? Because that is really one of the main storylines, right? The O-line and can CJ Stroud make the same step? But I think it's a little bit lazy. So I want to look a little bit more, what is this offense actually? And can the offensive coordinator maybe unlock CJ Stroud a little bit more, and where the offseason moves the right ones? Because last season, the offense played a lot on 11 personnel, meaning very wide receiver focused. Only one running back, only one tight end. So they played that on 72% of their snaps. So a lot. And that's really the personnel that you play when you want to throw traditionally. But then they kind of played a lot run out of those formations, which is weird. And it didn't really work also that well. I don't know really what the thinking was. Maybe they expected more from their O-line. Maybe they expected more from CJ Stroud on the double threat. I don't know, but it didn't work. So it looks like this year they want to change that. They want to play more 12 personnel, more 13 personnel. So more on the run. I've already mentioned that, right? They also made the changes in the O-line and in tight end to allow that. And they also might be making CJ Stroud's life easier. To give you one number, CJ Stroud or Texans last season, they had only 43% of their snaps had pre-snap motion, which is below the league average. And pre-snap motion is one of these tools that you use to make the quarterback's life easier, because it takes one read away for him, and it gives him a little indicator of what the defense looks like, right? So you lose a lot of pre-snap motion to make the quarterback's life easier, and maybe that's what Stroud really needs. He didn't have a great season considering how far they got. 3,000 yards, 19 touchdowns, 8 picks, 72 yards per attempt, which is only 28th in the league. So really not a good season. And he ran for 209 yards. So he's not really a scrambler. Sometimes he has a big game as a scrambler, but it's not really his identity. So really what they want to try to do is make his life easier. I also saw that, obviously it's hard to play again behind a weak O-line when you're constantly under pressure. But I saw some very interesting statistic on Instagram actually yesterday, where they were saying the quarterback has much more an impact on sacks behind an O-line than you'd think. It's not only the O-line's job, because they were showing something like Tom Brady, his sack rate was always below 3% behind every O-line. And then whoever the quarterback was on that same O-line had double his sack rate. So the quarterback does play a role. So you want to see that a bit better from CJ Stroud as well, quicker decision making. Let's see if he can do that. And this is where it becomes the narrative. Can he make the step up? But the first thing needs to be, can they run the ball better? Can the O-line protect better? Can the tight ends help here? So those are all the questions that you need to watch. And then the CJ Stroud piece is kind of the last piece for me, not the first piece.
Yeah. It seems like they made changes to facilitate him not being an A+ guy. If they're going to now focus on run and go for a little bit more on the heavy set, it doesn't feel like an admission of failure, but I think maybe they put too much on his shoulders. They've also had the awful injuries, every year for the last 3 years, they've had some big player that's really hampered the offense. So maybe again, it's just a nice case of giving him another outlet that they can rely on, right?
Yeah, absolutely. A bit like maybe, you know already what you can expect from a Sam Darnold, so you play to his strengths, for example, exactly. And it worked very well. So let's see if that happens with CJ Stroud now. But yeah, injuries are a big storyline as well. And this brings us to the receiver group. Last bit I want to cover on offense. We really only have Nico Collins, who is their clear number one receiver. He's a real deal. He's going to be the starter. Another 1,000-yard season, third straight 1,000-yard season. So yeah, uncontested, right? Then you have Tank Dell coming back. He's an interesting one because I think he's been out for 20 months, it says here, Tank Dell. He had this great rookie season where he connected really well with CJ Stroud and then out for 20 months.
Yeah. It's a knee, right? ACLs?
Dislocated kneecap, 3 torn ligaments.
Jesus. Bless him.
So
savage.
So he's a bit of this for me. I cannot even count him yet as what he's going to be on that offense because no one really knows, right? Like I don't know what his job is going to be. I don't know how many snaps he's actually going to get. Who knows after that kind of injury? But this is where it gets interesting because Higgins got injured. He was a rookie for them last season. They played quite well, but now they got Keyshawn Boutte from the Patriots in.
Yeah.
Which is very interesting because profile-wise, he's different to Higgins. So it's not a like-for-like replacement.
No.
He's more this vertical stretcher of the field, deep vertical threat, right? I think he has one of the highest yards per catch, which usually means that you're a deep ball receiver, and one of the highest yards in the air per catch, which means like the ball flies a lot until it reaches him, which means usually you're a deep ball receiver, right? Sure. So that's the profile they got in here, and they didn't have this profile before on this offense, so that's quite interesting. Then you have Nico Collins again as the X receiver, the clear number one, contested catches, all that stuff, and Dalton Schultz on tight end as their kind of possession tight end. Possession solid, exactly. You just dump it off to him and he's going to catch it, plus the 2 new tight ends. So interesting group because that new vertical threat by Boutte also might allow the run game, might give the run game a bit more freedom because if you don't have that, the safeties will ignore the vertical threat. They will just they will just make the field more tight and it's harder for the run game again. So another one that might unlock their offense, and I find that intriguing, honestly. So let's see how that works out. Last interesting bit here on offense, the rookie that they signed, the tight end. He's called Marlon Klein, a 2nd round pick. They went, like the consensus on him was like 4th round or 5th round. They picked him on 2nd round. He's actually from Germany, from Cologne.
Oh, cool.
So a bit of a European presence here. They moved to the States when he was 15 and worked his way up. And Houston Texans are coming to Wembley on week 6. So it's cool to have a bit of European presence there. Hope he's successful.
Yeah, you should buy the jersey. We should buy all the German players and make sure you get on Fanatics and get all the jerseys sorted.
Yeah. Once he catches his first. But I think he might be used as a run blocker a bit more in the beginning. Let's see.
Okay.
But yeah, that's the offense, Dave. Anything you found especially interesting on that, or makes a lot of sense? What do you think?
No, I think we've talked about CJ Stroud, right? And I know you don't want to focus on it because I agree. It's lazy in the sense of there is nothing much else to talk about really when it comes to the Texans offense. It's exciting. Yeah. I think, he's had some regression, especially because he had such a good start to his career. So it's more of a case of like, is he going to be a game manager? Is he going to be a bona fide star? Who knows, right? How long is a piece of string? We'll have to see. We also need to see if they can stay.
And does he have to be that? Does he have to be a bona fide star for this to be successful? That's, I think, the key question for me, because there's a good case where you say no, he doesn't have to be, and it's just about making less mistakes, less interceptions, less sacks, reading the defense just a little bit better.
Yeah, decision making
and trusting the run game and the receivers that he has. But let's see.
Plus, a lot of downside in that playoff game against the Patriots with that inclement weather. Yeah, okay, he didn't play well, but like no one played well, did it? It was playing in the middle of a blizzard, and they are from Houston and playing a dome. So it's like Miami had that problem when they had Tua and Tyreek. Like they couldn't play in any weather that was less than like 77 degrees Fahrenheit, whatever it's called. Otherwise, they would suck, right? So I wouldn't judge him too much. But it's an interesting season. I think their defense is still going to be good, and I know you're going to talk about that next. So that's
much less though.
Yeah, that's still their shining part.
Exactly. Similar to with the Broncos, when I kept that part short, it's the same here. Like they have I think in yards allowed, they even have the best defense. But in general, every team is afraid of their defense. They have 6 Pro Bowlers in there. They have Will Anderson. They have Stingley, who are like first team All Pros. 9 of their starter returned. They didn't lose anybody of note. I think they lost a safety now in that trade for Keyshawn Boutte, but not a starting caliber safety. And similar like with the Broncos, they don't blitz a lot because they don't have to, and they still win. Right? It's just how good they are. So yeah, not too much to say about them here. More of the same probably if they stay healthy, and that should give a good baseline for the offense to get better. And again, like as a summary, even last season when the offense was not that good, they still managed to get to the divisional round. So
yeah, exactly.
A lot of people, I think, in the odds have them as, I wouldn't say contenders, but hopefuls, like almost there. And we have to see then how the offense works out. They're coming out of a 12-5 season. Now their line is, let me see, Athletic have them on 9-8 this year because they have the 6th or 7th hardest schedule. And BetMGM has them at under 9.5 also wins. So the odds are a bit more against them. I'm a bit more positive after everything I've said. Let's see. It would be interesting to see how those odds change after the Keyshawn Booty signing, or if that doesn't really move the needle. But yeah, success for me basically means they make it to the playoffs again. They don't have to make it to the Super Bowl, but maybe to the AFC Championship game. But what I really, really want to see is that the O-line holds, that the run game works, and that CJ Stroud is like an efficient top 15 quarterback. Doesn't have to be a world beater. If that happens, that's success for me for the Texans this season.
Yeah, I agree. And I remember they won the last 8 games of the season, right, going into the wild card or into the playoffs. So they had a good end to the season, but
no, that was the opposite. I think they won. They won towards the end of the season.
Yeah, I'm saying that they won the last 8 games of the regular season.
Yes, so they had a good end to the season.
Yes, they had a good end to the season. Granted, they went into that snow game. So if they pick up that momentum again, it could be a good start to the season. So, no, I completely agree. And we'll be on CJ Stroud watch throughout the season, whether we like it or not, because that's just how this cookie is going to crumble.
And Tank Dell watch.
Yeah,
he's the next factor.
They extended Daniil Hunter as well, so they've got some more pieces that's going to be there for a couple more years. So, cool. Let us know in the comments what do you think about the Houston Texans. Are you interested, or are they boring you now? Are you move on from CJ Stroud, or are you keep CJ Stroud? I think D'Amico Ryans has proved he's a great head coach, so I don't think that's going to be necessarily too questioned, but CJ Stroud could be on that block where they'd look to move on soon, and we'll see how this season goes as well on that one. But cool. Yep. Nice breakdown there. I appreciate that. Moving swiftly on as we keep our run through the AFC South ticking, I am going to cover a team that is dear to Shadi's heart because of one player. Well, it was until he cut his hair off. We're going to talk about the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are a really, really interesting team actually coming into this season because they made some moves that you don't think make them better, and they come off the back of a really good season last year. So let's kind of break this down and talk about a little bit about the summary of where the Jags were last year. They went from 4-13 in 2024 to 13-4 in 2025, completely revamped their record from start to finish. Liam Cohen had his first season as the head coach, and quite possibly has completely changed the trajectory of this franchise so far. He was the guy that did the Duval
what a
thing,
first
right?
season.
Say it again?
Him and Ben Johnson, man, first time head coaches, and immediately changed the trajectory, like I said, of their teams.
Yeah, absolutely. He wasn't the guy that did the Duval thing, was he?
He did, yeah.
Oh, Christ. Duval. And he even came back from that. Imagine that, dude. Like, if you can come back from that as a star, maybe I need to really pay attention to who you are as a coach. They had a top 10 offense and a top 10 defense. Trevor Lawrence had a bit of a breakout season as far as kind of organizing the team. Parker Washington took a step forward. Travis Etienne was there. Devin Lloyd was on the defense. They had a lot of really, really good pieces. But this is where it gets a little bit contested. Jacksonville lost Devin Lloyd and Greg Newsome II in free agency over the summer, along with Travis Etienne and a couple of other kind of smaller contributors. Now, these weren't just players who were there and on the roster. These were players that contributed majorly to this team in 2025. So it makes them a little bit harder to evaluate kind of going into this season, right? The offense could be better. The defense could be worse. So the big questions, I guess, is will Trevor Lawrence and Liam Cohen's kind of scheme compensate for what they've lost on defense? We'll have to see, right? Some more breakdown as well of how they finished last year. So like I said, top 10 scoring defense and top 10 scoring offense. They were the NFL's number 1 run defense. They had 31 takeaways, 22 interceptions, and a plus 13 turnover differential as well. So the defense went from 25th against the run to first from 2024 to 2025.
And that is an interesting one, Dave, if I can again intervene, in there. But that, what did you say, plus 13 differential on turnovers?
On turnovers, yeah.
I don't know who's the best on that statistic, but that sounds crazy. And it sounds like something that is so high above the baseline that is really hard to repeat. Because often, even if your defense is good, and even if you do a lot of pressure, it doesn't necessarily translate into turnovers. You need a bit of luck for that as well.
Yeah. They balled out last year. It's not short to say. The problem that they've got is that they're going to run into big heads in the playoffs, right? They won out in the division. They played the Bills in the wild card and lost by 3 points. It was a good game, right? And they were close, but having to play the Bills, having to maybe come against the Chiefs, having to maybe play the Patriots, these are big teams to try and get over. So you need to be above average. And I don't think defensively they got better. And we'll talk about Devin Lloyd specifically in a little bit because I think he's a really interesting person to lose. He went to Carolina, which it's questionable for why he would want to leave to go to that team specifically and not maybe stick around in Duval. But again, we'll move on to that later on. On the offensive side of the ball, again, this is mainly around Trevor Lawrence and Liam Cohen. I think their system helped Trevor Lawrence really flourish into having one of his best seasons that he's had in a long time. So there's a few different parts to Liam Cohen's scheme. It's a very modern quarterback-friendly system, and it actually stems from the Sean McVay tree. So finally, not something that's Shanahan-related, which is nice because I feel like we've said Shanahan's name in every single one of these breakdowns. So,
well, Sean McVay comes from Shanahan, kind of, so it's still related, right?
yeah, but we're going to give it to McVay for this one. But had a more direct impact, let's say. So I think it's a little bit what you kind of mentioned before as well. They want to have, or they had the illusion of complexity. So a lot of pre-snap motion, a lot of people moving around, even though the reads and the plays were going to be very simple. But they had a lot of moving parts to the offense pre-snap, which again helped a lot of those plays develop. Spread to run. So they did a lot of kind of hybrid systems where they wanted to thin out the defense. So, we talked about kind of stretch runs that go to the outside, that spread the defense a little bit thin so you can look for cutback lanes or potentially go around the edge. Travis Etienne had a really good season last year as well. They also had a really good play action and overall play sequencing. So one of the things I was kind of seeing in the research is what a lot of teams get wrong on the offense is how they put the plays together, right? Run, pass, run. What do you do on third down? What do you do on first down? And it was really interesting to kind of read about it. They say that's what Liam Cohen and the offense really mastered is when to go with certain plays. There's a couple of other elements as well, but I think those are the core ones. So again, it's seeing if they can take that step forward once again. Parker Washington had a little bit of a jump up. Brian Thomas Jr. was good last season, but I think he had a little bit of injury problems as well. So we look for him to have a big comeback. And I guess they kind of lost Travis Hunter as well, because he's moved from wide receiver to a full-time cornerback for this year. So again, looking at this season, we need to know if that offense is going to be exactly the same. Another big change on the offense is they lost, again, Travis Etienne, which I think is how you say his name properly. If I'm wrong, you let me know in the comments. Bashal Tutin was there, who I know our European fantasy guru Lorenz has talked about Bashal Tutin in the past. I've definitely heard that name this summer. Yeah. They also signed Chris Rodriguez as well from the Redskins, from the Commanders. So they're going to have a new look running back tandem, which could be effective, absolutely. But again, it's more question marks going into this season. So am I as confident as I was that they will be a top 10 offense this year? Question mark. How long is a piece of string? But they did lose, I think some productivity when it comes to Travis Etienne specifically on offense. I guess you watch a little bit more of the Jags because you like Trevor Lawrence, and I think you watched a lot of their games last season. How big do you think Travis Etienne is to this offense overall? Do you think that's enough to knock them out of the top 10?
To knock Trevor Lawrence out of the top 10?
The offense overall, right? It was a top 10 scoring offense last year.
Yeah.
How big of an impact is losing Travis Etienne in the grand scheme of things?
I think it's not only losing him. I think it's the combination of all the things that you mentioned that they will have an impact on the offense. I mean, Etienne was one of the best running backs last season, right?
Yeah.
So I think so, because especially when I'm looking at a bit of some advanced stats here on Pro Football Reference, it's not like Trevor Lawrence was in the top 8 of the quarterbacks last season in a lot of these stats. So it wasn't like he was a world beater either. He just played much more efficient than he played the seasons before and made much less mistakes. So kind of what we said about what I want to see from CJ Stroud next year. So based on that, it's not even like he carried the team or something like that, but he was there in important moments. So yes, I think it could be something that will knock them out of the top 10 on offense. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
I think they were a bit unlucky, or I don't know if it's unlucky or if it's just the way that their roster was constructed, but they had cap space problems, if I'm not completely wrong. They had to pay a lot of people and then they couldn't pay them. Basically, people reached maturity and reached that stage in their career too early a little bit. And that's why they had to let them go. I think you said it earlier. You don't know why the one was Devin Lloyd who joined the Panthers.
We're going to talk about Devin
You cannot understand why he joined the Panthers. Probably money, to be honest.
Oh no, it's definitely money. Plus, he probably. I love the Panthers uniforms. I think that the black with the blue, it pops so hard in the black pants. I'm a big uniform guy, and I think he looks dope in that uniform. But that moves.
Hey, a lot of people on fantasy have Trevor Lawrence this season as a breakout. He's going to get even better, and I know what. I'm starting to be a bit more pessimistic about this, especially with the haircut change. That is for me
It's like
the upset
Erling Haaland.
the upset of the off season.
Literally, he's like Erling Haaland. If Haaland scores no goals this season in the Premier League or under 15, it's because he cut his hair off and he's like,
Definitely.
He's lost his power. So we're going to see. The cap space stuff, you know what the problem I think they had is they sucked for so many years and had so many high draft picks that sometimes those all combine in ones, and not every draft pick is going to hit, as we know, we've talked about. But if a few of them do it at similar times, then you're going to have a real quick financial problem really fast. And I think this was maybe one of these scenarios they fell into.
And they didn't have draft picks either. They couldn't replace them with rookies either because they traded away a lot of draft picks.
They traded their first round pick last year to go up for Travis Hunter, which in hindsight was a celebrity pick versus maybe like the best football player available, but he's going to have a big season. And that pulls me onto the defense next as well. Again, a top 10 unit overall, which I think surprised a lot of people. They have a really, really impressive pass rush with Trayvon Walker and Josh Hines-Allen. I think those two build again to have another really strong season rushing the quarterback. I think that's great. Devin Lloyd is a really, really interesting one to lose. And I'm going to read some stats off, by the way, from the Pro Football Focus on Devin Lloyd last year. So his overall defensive grade was an 88.6. So he ranked third out of 88 qualified linebackers. His pass rush grade was fifth. His coverage grade was fourth. And his passer rating when targeted was 68.7. So he was an absolute game wrecker last year.
Damn.
He had, I think, over 100 tackles, or maybe no, he had about 77 tackles, only 1.5 sacks, but he had 5 interceptions as well. So that was tied second for NFL linebackers, and he hit the quarterback 10 times. So that is a huge amount of production that you are losing. He was one of the most efficient off-ball linebackers in the NFL last season. So you cannot just lose that amount of production and expect them to be exactly the same. Greg Newsome moved on as well. I think that probably makes sense because when Travis Hunter decided to be a full-time corner, they maybe want him to be CB1 to start the next season and go forward. So maybe Greg Newsome is a little bit of a cap casualty that we talked about. But the Devin Lloyd one, I think, makes a really big impact. We've talked about how certain players are linchpins of defenses and offenses. And if you pull that plug, sometimes it all falls apart. I don't know if that knocks him out again of being a top 10 defense, but just by production alone, it doesn't look like they've replaced as well as they let go. So
I've got to be honest with you. If I look at the other linebackers that are left, I don't really know them.
It's not that impressive, right?
No.
Yeah. And I think they got a problem. I think they've got an issue. They drafted a lot as well, but they didn't draft. Funnily enough, they drafted a linebacker in the 7th round, Parker Hughes out of Middle Tennessee State, but they didn't actually draft another linebacker. So they only obviously had a 2nd round pick, but they had 3 thirds, a 4th, a 5th, 2 6s, and 2 7s. So they didn't do a lot, in my opinion, either. They re-signed Trayvon Walker. They re-signed Dennis Gardeck, who's a linebacker who I don't know too much about, if I'm brutally honest, but he was there. Montarek Brown, another one of their cornerbacks as well. But didn't necessarily bring in anyone to replace Devin Lloyd's production. So I think their defense is going to take a step back. I think the offense is less powerful and less skilled than it was. I also think the defense is the same. So overall, I think that the Jags are going to take a step back this season. I think we need to see if Trevor Lawrence can progress under Liam Cohen, if that was a bit of a blip. Can they replace Devin Lloyd with maybe group production versus one person? And can Travis Hunter kind of compensate for Greg Newsome? So lots to think about in Jacksonville. Do I think they're going to get 13 wins again? No, to be brutally honest with you. But I still think that they're going to be a decent team to contend with over there in the AFC South. So what do you think, Shads? Do you think they replaced enough of their talent to still be competitive, or do you think they've lost too much now and it might be a little bit of regression?
I think it might be a little bit of a regression. I think they lost quite a few pieces. What works in their favor is that the other team that we're going to talk about next also, in my opinion, makes a regression and an even stronger regression. So that works well for them, so that they probably still can make the playoffs, especially with the Titans also in the same division. So I think they make a regression, but not one that strong. Maybe 2-3 wins less. Yeah. It all hinges on. You also already mentioned it. For me, it hinges a lot on the defense if they can replace the production. Actually, not that much on the offense.
Yeah, I fully agree with you. I think they got to a good point, and just losing the running back doesn't maybe tank the whole team. I think Bashal Tootin is due for a bit of a breakout season, so I think they still have to respect that. So let us know in the comments. What do you think about the Jags? Do we think Travis Hunter can be a CB1 in this league? Do we think Devin Lloyd's replacements have been good enough? Do you think there's going to be a little regression there? Let us know below. But we'll keep it moving. AFC South, Shadi, where are we going next?
The team that I think is going to make the even harder regression, which is the Indianapolis Colts. And I love talking about them. I'm a bit of a Colts hater. Nothing personal. I just don't like what they've done with the all-in that they went last season. I think the timing was just awkward and awful. But maybe I'm jumping already to the conclusion. Let's just start with a quick summary again on the Colts. They started the last season 7-1. Then they went 8-2, and then they finished with more. Yeah, they finished with more losses than wins. So, which means that they lost almost all of their remaining games, missed the playoffs, and it's the first team since the 1995 Raiders to start 8-2 and miss the playoffs. And it wasn't just blowouts, it was a lot of one-score games. So they went 3-7 in one-score games, which means they lost 7 out of 10 one-score games. It could have swung the other way around as well. It wasn't just that they completely collapsed. So yeah, it's not the hopeful thing for them, and the optimistic case for them is that it's not a team that got completely exposed and hammered when they collapsed, right? It's a team that just stopped winning. But what happened? Well, Daniel Jones had this absolute superstar season of a quarterback, outperformed so many of his statistics that it's almost unheard of what he did. Super deep threat in Alec Pierce there as well. So everything worked. The run game kind of worked as well. And then Daniel Jones got injured just when they went all in and signed Sauce Gardner and gave away a lot of their picks. That's when Daniel Jones got injured and everything kind of collapsed. As well as there's an interesting storyline in here where their owner, Jim Irsay, passed away. So now his daughter took over. So we're going to have to see how that impacts things.
Yep.
And honestly, Shane Steichen is one of those guys that for me is a bit, the head coach is a bit on a hot seat for me. 3 seasons, no playoff appearance. The GM, who's kind of responsible for this whole mess of a roster, is also still there. So I think this is like a prove it year for both of them.
Yeah.
To jump to the conclusion, it means no playoffs and both of them would probably likely be out. So big season. What did they actually do to try to get better? This is where I'm probably getting a bit skeptical. They got Cameron Bynum on safety. There was a big safety contract. Sauce Gardner we will see for the first time for a full season.
Yep.
And they drafted CJ Allen in the second round to play linebacker. And then they went in and got Keenan Allen, the veteran, on a 1-year deal. We're going to look into that as well when we talk about the offensive identity. Daniel Jones is staying. They gave him the big contract that he was after. I think Daniel Jones probably, we made jokes about it before, has the best agent of all time. The amount of money that this man makes. And Kirk Cousins, yeah. Alec Pierce got his well-deserved extension as well, 4 years. One of the highest paid receivers now. Jonathan Taylor on running back, was one of the top 3 running backs with Bijan Robinson and Jahmyr Gibbs, got paid. So they had to spend a lot of dough to keep this team together. A lot of cheese was split between this team. was distributed.
Cheese was grated.
It was, yes. Thank you. Which also meant that some people didn't get any cheese. Michael Pittman Jr., they lost to the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, he's gone.
And they lost their main linebacker in Zaire Franklin, who they traded. So 2 big losses, enormous money spent on their 3 main guys. So again, they need to do something this season, or else this whole thing is going to fall apart. I don't know how they're going to do with cap space. They don't have any draft picks coming up anytime soon because they traded it all away. So this is like an all-in year for a team that is not really an all-in team, in my opinion. The way this
is the other side. The other side of the Rams, where the Rams trade their picks for quality players, and everyone thinks, oh, that's the way to do it. This is the other side of trading all of your picks away for certain players and the downside that can bring. It's they're not dissimilar in any way other than they both tried that tactic and one has been successful and one hasn't.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a good summary. And one is with Daniel Jones and one with Matthew Stafford. Oh. So let's talk about the offense, but here I'm going to keep it a bit more brief than with the Texans because I am actually going to focus a lot of Daniel Jones. I am going to make this all about the quarterback.
Danny Dimes.
Daniel Jones, fun fact for the people out there, he was for a long time the profile picture of our WhatsApp group when he was still with the Giants and he had that run and he was just in front of basically running towards the touchdown and fell. Stumbled. It's a funny video.
It still is, by the way. It still is. But
is it still?
It's got dollar signs and there's dollar bills being superimposed all over him as he's falling.
Okay.
Class.
But so one thing that stood out to me is that the Colts played a lot, like 70% of the time in shotgun, which is basically where you just give the ball to the quarterback and you want him to do something. Similar to what we said about Jaden Daniels with the Commanders, actually. And it worked out. It worked out for them because they had Alec Pierce on the deep threat. They won almost all the contested catches. Daniel Jones just threw it to him and done. Tyler Warren, I think on the rookie year on tight end, right? If I'm not wrong.
Yeah, Tyler Warren.
Yeah, Tyler Warren, which with an insane performance as well. So everything going well for Daniel Jones, as well as one of the top 5 O-lines from what I've read. Again, I'm not an O-line expert, but a lot of people are high on this O-line and are high on this O-line going into the new season as well. So that's a good mix. If you have a good O-line that gives time to the quarterback, and he doesn't even need that much time to throw deep because the receivers are that good and the tight end that they get separation very quick. If you have that, then it's a good mix, and that allows you to play shotgun. And they take Daniel Jones in motion also a lot. So that in this case, motion means the quarterback rolls out to the right or the left. He uses athleticism to give him to pull the defense apart and give him a better spot to throw, pretty much. And you can do that with an athletic quarterback. So I would say they really did a good job in playing to the strength of their quarterback. They just rolled him out, they gave him clear reads, and they made sure that they had the best wide receivers that were able to create separation very quickly. He just got the ball out in like 2.5 seconds or something like this.
Just chucked it.
Perfect.
I reckon, how many times do you think he closed his eyes and threw the ball? I know this doesn't obviously really happen. But how many times do you think he saw a rush come and said, "Oh shit," and just launched it, and Alec Pierce dunking on mossing people?
But that's where the interesting, what you said earlier about sequential offense or something like this, you mentioned it, right? They could play that very well.
Yeah.
Yes, because they had one of the best running backs as well. So they just ran it through. So they take the opponent apart quick, and if they couldn't throw vertical, well, then you have Tyler Warren underneath.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And he did get drafted after. That was a bit of a steal, Tyler Warren, right? Because I think Colston Loveland went before Tyler Warren. A lot of people had Tyler Warren as the best tight end coming out of the draft. I think he came from Penn State, if I'm not mistaken. And I think
Colts I'm not sure. I didn't follow the draft at the time.
He's been the best. He could be the best tight end in Indianapolis since Dallas Clark, who was a stalwart of the Peyton Manning days. So that he could be there for a long time. I think he could be a bit of a G in this league. I'm looking forward to seeing his second year.
They're Brock Bowers.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of thing,
exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Well, tight ends are so important. We know these years, and they're getting more athletic, and they're getting more Travis Kelce than they are. I'm going to throw an old name out, Algie Crumpler. Who, if you don't know who Algie Crumpler is, he's the tight end for the Falcons. Yeah, you have to Google that, man. But yeah, sorry, I'm interjecting here, talking too much about time.
No, good. I love hearing your history lessons. All good. So yes, exactly. How many times? You made a very good point with how many times did you just close your eyes and threw it? Because that's the big problem that this year they lost Michael Pittman Jr., one threat. Alec Pierce is on the PUP list, on the not injury reserve yet, but he's injured pretty much.
Yeah, he will be out for a while.
Yeah, so he will not start the season most likely. And then they really only have now Josh Downs and Keenan Allen.
Yeah.
So,
which is similar, right? But are they the poor man's version of Michael Pittman and Alec Pierce? Like
exactly.
They're the profile wise, they're pretty much the same. I guess Josh Downs a little twitchier, but Keenan Allen represents to me a very similar Alec Pierce. Like he's going to run a fade, he's going to run a streak. He's taller than you. He's going to go up and get the ball. But do we know the production?
Yeah, but he's 34, so who knows if he can still create that separation as quick as Alec Pierce can. And then that in turn means that Daniel Jones has to hold the ball longer in a shotgun offense. So maybe he's going to get in danger a bit more often. Then he starts thinking, but maybe he doesn't have the best decision making. So it's going to be. I say this offense takes a step down this season, even though they held all their main parts. Yeah. And I think the last part on the offense here for me, that's a purely statistical thing, is that the statistics for Daniel Jones were so above his average from the previous years. It almost has to at least, even it doesn't have to crash, but it has to go back down to a little bit more what it was in the seasons before, realistically, because there were a lot of big throws in there, and I think there was some unheard thing about the percentage of big throws he had versus the percentage of turnover-worthy throws, so throws that actually should have been intercepted but were not intercepted, was quite high for him, which again is a bit of a pointer towards was he maybe a bit lucky.
Yeah, and what it reminds me of? A lot of the teams, we talked about the Bears and the Broncos, those wins are like in a different universe, you lost all of those games, right? In Daniel Jones' different universe, he threw 25 picks last year and he could easily throw 25 picks this year, throwing those same passes and the luck just not being on your side. There is an element to that. And it felt lucky a little bit, That's what it felt like watching them anyway.
I agree. Yes. And that's it for the offense for me. that's my main narrative, similar to with the Texans. There's not that much going on the defense, but I don't want to be sly to the defenses of this league. So let's talk about them a little bit still. They were 23rd in pressure rate and 26th in pass rate. So not very good, not very, very bad. And they still managed to get the job done, kind of. Apparently, Lou Anarumo, who's entering his second year with them, he was with the Bengals before, by the way, who did not have a good defense under him.
Yeah.
He has to be a bit creative with this defense because they didn't have this one winner, like what you said earlier, like you have a main linebacker or something like this. They don't really have that, so he has to be a bit creative. But the defense is not as bad as the numbers make it seem like. Like they actually, in terms of EPA and so on, so EPA, expected points added, they performed average. So it's just that they were on the field a lot. So the total numbers are high of what they allowed, but they also had to be on the field a lot.
Yeah,
that's the thing with them. But in general, I'm a little bit less worried about the defense, even though maybe I should be. Let's see what Sauce Gardner does.
Did they pick up anybody crazy in free agency on the defense, or is there anybody that they brought in? I think they brought in Arden Key. I'm just looking at some names now. Jerry Tillery. These are like Derek Nandi. These are not like big name starters. They signed Jonathan Owens, who, fun fact, if you don't know who Jonathan Owens is, he is married to Simone Biles, if you did not know that. You know Simone Biles, the gymnast?
Is that the gymnast? Yeah. I know
Yeah. So that's a fun fact for him. He's bounced around the league a little bit. But no big, like, impactful players, I think, came in. But they
I think the rookie maybe, they got CJ Allen, maybe the rookie, but it's not a big impact. And then they gave a big contract to Bynum. That's the one on safety that they traded for, if I'm not wrong. That was the one big one where they said, okay, we need safety help. Yeah. So he's on paper is going to make them better. But I want to wrap this up here with that being said. And really, where it's really easy with the Colts. The narratives are quite simple here. Like, can Sauce Gardner make that defense better? Is he the one piece that they were missing together with Cam? What was his name? Cam Bynum. And can the offense keep producing on this absurd level that they were producing in the first 7 games of last season? With Alec Pierce, with Tyler Warren, with Jonathan Taylor, with Daniel Jones? Or are they going to make a step back, which is what I think is more likely in terms of what the statistics show? I'd be happy to be surprised, but for now, I'm a bit of a Colts hater, and I think they're going to have a losing record. And this was all just, how do you say this? Built with a hot needle? Is that something that you can say?
No, but maybe say it in German. Maybe it makes more sense in German.
It's okay. Mit der heißen Nadel gestrickt.
Flows right off the side there.
So that's my take on the Colts. I'm not going to talk more because it is actually quite simple.
Yeah, no, I feel you. And they're an interesting organization until they're not. I mean, they had a good start to the season. They played some poor teams. And then when Daniel Jones went down, everything broke. So we need to see if they can start again in the same power. Alec Pierce not being there is a big difference for me. We'll see. Again, interesting but not interesting as a team, I think. And let us know in the comments again. Do you think the Colts are worth looking out for more? Are we not paying enough attention to them? Or are they as boring as we think they might be? Because that's also possible.
And that's really good news. That's really good news for the Jaguars, as I said earlier.
Yes, exactly. Well, Trevor Lawrence, anyway, at least. But cool. Last but not, maybe least, we are going to finish off the AFC South with the Tennessee Titans. So I'm probably not going to sit here for a full clip and give this a full rundown. There's just some funny things that happened to the Titans in this offseason that I think are worth talking about. They are an interesting rebuild. They're a team to watch this season, a lot like the Raiders, where you just don't really know what you're going to get. They finished 3-14 in back-to-back seasons. They have replaced Brian Callahan with Robert Saleh, and they've built a new coaching staff, which is mega lols, and we will get into where that coaching staff came from in a minute. Robert Saleh is what I saw an interview recently, and they asked him, how do you treat your family when you're moving, right? He's been in a few different places the last few years. How does it work when you're always moving around? And he was like, no, I'm all in. Like, the kids are already in schools in Tennessee. We bought a house. We are there for the long haul. So I hope that it works out for him, because I don't want his kids to have to move around a whole bunch. That can't be fun. Following their dad around, getting fired from place to place. Can't be interesting. But he was the defensive coordinator, right, for the 49ers last season, if I'm not mistaken. So yes, had a pretty good end to his career in San Francisco. But we also know he didn't have the best start when he was with the Jets. But who does, to be fair? A lot of what they're centered around is around Cam Ward. He had not the best start to the year, but he had a really good end to the season. His last 7 games, he only threw one interception, had a good amount of yards as well. Needs to stay healthy. I think he's another one that had some Was he really healthy all year was a big question. But he didn't have a lot of people to throw the ball to. The defense also struggled to keep people off the field. Jeffrey Simmons was kind of their best player. And, there's only so much a defensive tackle / defensive end can really do to help you win games. But they go into 2026 with some optimism. And this is where it gets funny. So there is now a big Giants and Jets connection that Robert Saleh has brought into the team. So when it comes to the players, there are now 4 former Giants on the Tennessee Titans. So they signed Wan'Dale Robinson to quite a big deal, which I think is a good sign for Cam Ward. I think he had a bit of a breakout season last year. Got a lot of love for Wan'Dale. They brought in Daniel Bellinger, who is a tight end, who will give another safety blanket again for Cam Ward. I think that's a good pickup also. Cordell Flott as corner, who has had up and down seasons with the Giants, but I think if he plays the best that he can to his ability, he plays to his ceiling, I think it can be a really good cornerback. And again, makes that defense a little bit more solid when it was very weak last year. And then they signed Austin Schrottman, who might have some German in him. You never know. They signed him as a center. So they've got a lot of Giants players that they just picked up. They also have a lot of Giants coaches. So Robert Saleh brought in Brian Daboll, who was the former head coach of the Giants. He is now their offensive coordinator. Shea Tierney, who is the quarterback's coach for the Giants, is now the quarterback coach for the Tennessee Titans. Carmen Bristello, who is the former offensive line coach, is now the offensive line coach in Tennessee. And Marquand Manuel, who was a cool name, by the way, who is the former defensive back coach for the Giants, is now a defensive back coach for the Titans. So that's now 8 total people in this offseason that came from the Giants organization. That's 4 players and 4 coaches. There's also a couple of Jets players that have followed Robert Saleh as well. So they picked up Jermaine Johnson.
Very high profile.
Yeah, Jermaine Johnson, John Franklin Myers, and Solomon Thomas. They picked up in the offseason who all played under Robert Saleh in New York. So I think it's a bit unprecedented to see this many people. You get these kind of mass exoduses in football, like in soccer football, especially when it comes to coaching staffs where you bring everybody with you. And if you leave, everyone quits and immediately follows you to the next place. It wasn't necessarily the same way like that in Tennessee, but they have a lot of faces that they'll know. So that might be really good for Cam Ward, right? There's not like a bunch of disparate pieces that don't know each other. These are a coaching staff that has pretty much been together for a while. And even if they were, playing in the same stadium but not wearing the same colors, they still know each other roughly as well. So yeah, there's going to be some interesting developments on the coaching side, let's say to the least. But it also is quite amusing to talk about. They are now the Tennessee New York Giants Titans, essentially from the pickups that they have made. So let's break down a couple of the players I think are worth talking about. Some of them less so maybe. Wan'Dale, I think, is the big one. Had 92 catches and over 1,000 yards receiving last year. They gave him a big fat deal. He got $78 million for 4 years. They also drafted Carnell Tate. So now you have 2 pretty bloody good receivers to throw to. They also had, and I can never pronounce his name as well, Eric Aluminor, or they had somebody else as well on that offensive, in that wide receiver room who also can catch some passes. So they're giving Cam Ward some more weapons, which I think is really important. Daniel Bellinger, again, is another player who's already going to understand Daboll's offense, so that really helps as well. Can be a blocking tight end, also can catch some passes here and there also. So I think on the offensive side, they're looking to take a step forward. The Carnell Tate is a really big pickup, and they drafted him, I believe, 4th overall from the Ohio State Buckeyes, if I'm not mistaken. I'll need to correct myself in the editing. Yeah, Ohio State and the 4th overall pick. They also picked up an interesting player who's on a lot of people's list for being potentially a draft steal. So in the 5th round, they took Nick Singleton as a running back from Penn State, who a lot of people are really, really high on as well. And I think they still got Tony Pollard knocking around in that organization somewhere as well. So there are looks to take a step up on the offensive side. And Tyjae
Spears. Did you mention Tyjae Spears? Sorry, I
didn't mention Tyjae Spears yet either. Okay, so that's another player who's on the periphery of sometimes has a good season, sometimes has a bad season. So there's a lot to be optimistic about, I think, in Tennessee on the offensive side. We don't know what kind of offense I think Brian Daboll is going to set up. I mean, there's some, obviously we've seen some preseason games and things like that. If it's going to be very similar to what they ran in New York, or if he's going to mix it up due to the personnel that they've now got in place. But I think, again, having a coaching staff that kind of know each other is a really interesting concept. And I think that bodes well for Cam Ward in an organization that was a little dysfunctional last season. On defense, Robert Saleh is probably the guy that leads the front as far as being defensive first. So I think, again, that's an interesting pickup. It's an interesting signing. Gus Bradley comes in as his DC as well, somebody who's well revered. But it means that Robert Saleh now doesn't have to just lead the defense. He can be the head coach and have somebody else actually kind of call the players on defense also. I think it's helpful. So they also, again, Jeffrey Simmons, Cordell Flott, Jermaine Johnson, John Franklin Myers, Solomon Thomas, a couple of players that were there, Jeffrey Simmons, but most of them have been brought in. So again, something that could take a really big step up on the defensive side of the ball as well. There's a lot of unknowns. I equate the Titans very similarly to how we have been looking at the Raiders. There are so many question marks on, will all the new players that they brought in click? Will the new coaches they brought in click? Is there a lot of detail to go into right now? To be honest, no. I think we need to see them play for a few weeks. Do I think they'll win more than 3 games this season? I should, on paper. Cam Ward continues his trajectory that he had at the end of the season. They should be better than they were in 2025 and in 2024. So I'm optimistic in that front. I think it's the first year in a while I feel like watching some Titans games, and I haven't had that feeling with them since they drafted Will Levis because I wanted to laugh, and I haven't had that feeling since then. So again, the same with the Raiders. There's a team that I feel like watching now because of a couple of introductions that they've had. So we will see if the New York coaching staff will take a step forward. We will see if Brian Daboll is better suited as an OC than he is as a head coach. We will see if Robert Saleh, second stint as a head coach, can take that step forward as well. But interesting rebuild overall. I don't know what you think, Shads, on them. I don't know how much you watched them last year or how much you've seen of them.
No, I didn't do that to myself.
But maybe, do you think there's enough there now that makes them interesting for you to at least take a gander this season?
One thing, I think you didn't mention Calvin Ridley, right? Is he coming back from injury? He didn't play many games last season. He had this big season for the Jaguars a couple of years ago and then went to the Titans. And I just think last season he only played 7 games and didn't,
Yeah,
I think before that, the 2 seasons before that were both 1,000-yarders. He also had a 1,000-yard season with the Falcons, so he could be a big weapon for them as well.
That's a really good show. By the way, and he is fully healthy by the seams. He's in team drills. So you give Calvin Ridley, Carnell Tate, Wandale, and Illuminor. That's a pretty good, pretty deep wide receiver room. So I think that, again, could be exciting for sure.
I think, first of all, I'm very happy that you covered the Titans today because those are exactly the teams that I find the hardest to talk about, like you say, the Raiders, but also the Jets. They make so many roster moves. I mean, the Jets, I could have talked half an hour about their roster moves last season. I remember we cut a lot of it out of it as well because it got very long. So with the Titans, I'm at the same point this year, where it's just, like you say, too much to talk about. Much more interested in the head coach room, like you say. So that's what I want to see this season. I want to see an idea. I want to see that it works. They don't have to win every game, but that they make the games closer. That Cam Watts makes a step up. What I did find interesting, though, is both of these, both the head coach and Brian Daboll, an offensive coordinator, they are kind of coaches that have something to prove, right? For Robert Saleh, it's the second time he tries his head coach after the Jets, where, by the way, he assembled a really good defense. So he did his job on his side of the ball. Now he's reunited with a lot of those Jets players from back then. So let's see if he can do that again. But he has something to prove because it could be his last head coach job. In a difficult environment. So that's a cool storyline to watch. And Brian Daboll, the interesting storyline for me there is he was the one that unlocked Josh Allen at the Bills. He kind of unlocked Daniel Jones for one season at the Giants, which gave him this big contract. So can he unlock Cam Ward? I don't know. He has a bit of an image as a quarterback whisperer.
Guru. Like a bit of a Kevin O'Connell kind of... he's a quarterback developer, and then, again, like I said, he's also fighting to get back into the head coaching seat.
Exactly.
So,
and it might be the case where that's what I'm saying. The storyline for me here about the head coaches, because it might be the case. Everything that Robert Saleh says, it sounds like he's there to succeed immediately. He's not patient. So let's see how that translates on the pitch, but it is intriguing.
I completely give you, and it's a good shout about the something to prove thing, and I think that Brian Daboll is maybe the perfect fit right now for Cam Ward. You know, the offense is going to be quarterback centric. I think that's what Daboll usually runs. A lot of RPOs, maybe some quarterback runs as well. So we need to make sure that he can stay healthy. But I think they'll be an interesting team. I mean, I wouldn't be stunned if they get to 6-7 wins. I think 7-8 wins would be like a really good season for Robert Saleh's first year. Am I expecting a full turnaround? Nah. We'll see.
Yeah.
But yeah,
for that to achieve that, Cam Ward hasn't shown enough yet to be that optimistic.
Yeah,
yes, he had a bit of an upward trajectory. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No. I completely agree with you. I think, but he only had played one season, and he ended the season better than he started the season in a poor team. The Titans are, without a doubt, better than they were last year. This is without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah.
Cool. So that pretty much wraps us up. We are on the AFC South, and we have talked about every team there. And I think the breakdowns have been good today. So I appreciate you, Shadi, for your effort and your work. Now, as we have done in the last division breakdowns that we've done, we are going to predict how we think this league is going to finish. Now, we've given all of our context and we've given all of our debates. So now we're just going to shoot straight from the hip and give the numbers. I'm going to kick us off because I decided that's the case, and I'm the host today. Then I've got the microphone in front of me, so I'm going to go for it. So for the AFC South, I don't know if I'm going to do anything too outrageous for today. I think coming in at 4, I still have the Tennessee Titans. I think they're going to take a step up, but I do not think they're going to break any records or break the AFC South as a division. Third, I have the Colts, which again, I don't think is necessarily super crazy. Probably a bit of a given. Coming in at number 2, I have the Jags. I do think that they take a big step back on defense, and I don't think the Colts and the Jags will be miles away from each other when it comes to records, so those two could flip-flop for me quite easily. And I have the Texans winning out. I think they're the most complete team. I think they're the best coaching on the defensive side of the ball. I think CJ Stroud, with that new run game that you talked about, just has to manage himself through, and he's got to prove it here as well. So if he's going to get his career kicked off, he has to make this year count. So I have the Titans, I have the Colts, I have the Jags, and then I have the Texans. Shad, what about you?
Exactly the same, and we're aligned with the odds. A bit of a boring one today, but yeah, it is how it is. And it's the first of the divisions so far where we fully agree.
Exactly the same.
Yeah.
It also, again, has the potential to be one of the stinkiest divisions in football. I know there's a couple of others that we haven't talked about yet. That also could be a couple of stinkers.
I think the NFC South has a...
Yeah, it has potential. Yeah, it's going to be up there, to be honest with you. So, but you want to cover every single team because you never know what's going to happen in this league. No one thought the Seahawks were going to win the Super Bowl last year, so you want to make sure you cover every bit of it. Let us know in the comments if you think we missed any storylines or if there's any teams that you support in the AFC South that you think there's players that we should be watching out for this season. We will definitely check it out. Shads, anything else you want to share with the people before we break up for today?
I don't think this is going to be a stinker. I like this division.
Okay. Interesting.
With Jackson, there's some really cool storylines in there, and I hope Marvin Klein with the Texans, the German tight end, is going to reach the playoffs.
Yes, let's go. Always supporting the home team. But again, we appreciate you as always. If you made it this far, please make sure that you hit that subscribe button. It's free and does a lot for us. Like and share and all that good stuff. And we will catch you next week.